In this video, I'm going to take you through the entire life casting process. It's going to be time-lapsed, so it's not going to be too long. We'll be exploring how to actually use silicone rubber to make the mold and a polymer clay to make the shell for the mold. Then we're going to be talking about how to use resin and rigid foam to make the life casting itself. And finally, we're going to be adding some paint to make it look like a rotting corpse. So let's get started. So I'm here with Josh Balls of The Strange and Unusual, and today we're going to be doing a life casting. That's where I'm going to be applying silicone rubber. Green silicone rubber, turn him into a swamp thing.
So I hope I don't die.
Yeah, and maybe I'll consider leaving little air holes in his nose so he could breathe.
If I deserve it.
So we got Josh a little naked, and I'm starting to apply the silicone rubber to the back and the front, slowly working up towards the head. You just see it kind of slime all over the place, like Nickelodeon slime here. Now I'm starting to apply it to the head. Just the general areas like the top of the head, the back of the neck, the front of the neck, saving the face for last here. And I just continue to build up several coats on what I have. I'm applying things to the back of the ears just to give the ears a little bit more girth, and then I'm starting to apply it to the cheeks and around the mouth area, and boom! And finally applied it to his face, leaving just around his nostrils open. Mixing up some more, laying down some more to his face area, making sure it's well covered, and I am just kind of trying to accelerate the curing process with the heat. Now I'm applying the plaster bandages to maintain a form for after I remove it, and I'm trying to work with casting inside of it. So I'm just building up some more layers of plaster bandages, trying to accelerate the drying with the heat gun here, and then adding some small cuts to the plaster bandages, and now we are removing it off of Josh. So Josh, tell us about your experience. How did it feel on the inside?
Honestly, it was super relaxing. I think it was like one of the most, it was almost like I was on a little mini vacation. I got to just breathe and hang out. I got a little cold for like 10 minutes, but it's kind of chilly in my warehouse, so that's my fault. But no, I loved it. I thought it was a really cool experience, and I would do it 10,000 more times, so I'm all for it. Skin, but you know, once you look in, you can see the imprints of my back tattoo, my chest tattoo. You can see my sick nipples. But I'm really excited to see a finished product. Whatever you end up doing, I'm very, very excited for. Right now, it looks super weird, so maybe I'll just be a swamp thing. Who knows?
Well, I'm back in the studio now with my mold, and looking at the next couple steps here, I will be filling in the arm holes, the nostril holes, and then I'll also be building up a layer of silicone right along the seam here. It's to keep it shut, to keep it closed. And in addition, I'm also planning on making a cut going from about the top of the head right down through the back of the neck area. So that way, when I have the head completely cured, I'll be able to kind of allow some give out the back and then fit it going down out the bottom. So my next steps are to build about like an amputated kind of arm area here, where it's almost like the arm was just kind of ripped right off, and then I'll be building a layer of silicone rubber on top of that on both sides. And as always, I'll be using my favorite kind of clay, which is monster clay. Right now, just for this, just because it's, I don't care about the details necessarily, I'll be using the soft clay. So it's very easy to just kind of scrape up and throw wherever you need it. Time to bust this drum open and get to it. So I'm starting by making the stand really ideal. As you can see, I just have like this cardboard kind of crossbeam I'm wrapping with wire, because the wire is going to give me a very good foundation for this clay. So I'm starting to apply the clay to both of the armholes. And like I mentioned, I'm working with a soft clay, so it's easy to kind of knead together and flatten out to be like a flat surface that I could just slap on the sides of the arms. Now I'm mixing up the silicone silicone rubber. I'm using the same silicone rubber I did with the full body here in hopes that it'll perfectly fuse together. And then from here on in, I'm using a different kind of silicone rubber, one that I've added a thickening agent to so that I can really kind of slather it on, just kind of really add thick areas right where I need it, specifically around the seams, primarily because it will help prevent leakage. Any kind of leakage. I do not want resin or foam busting out the sides of any of the seams, so I'm really thickening it up. All right, now I'm feeling pretty good. I'm finished with the silicone rubber mold part. Now I have to enhance the shell around the silicone rubber mold that will maintain the posture of the silicone. And from here on in, I'm applying a poly clay, like a polymer clay that cures over, say, 6 hours. And in this process, I have to be very conscious of exactly where I anticipate cutting my seams. It's going to be a 2-part polyclay shell. There's going to be the front part and then the back part. And so I'm using aluminum foil to kind of act as a barrier in between the front and back so they don't stick together. Finally, I'm drilling holes through the polyclay along the seam lines. This will allow me to put bolts and wing nuts through so it could hold everything in place while holding a locking amount of pressure. And finally, the moment we have been waiting for, this is the casting process here. I'm using this box as kind of like a cushion to hold the mold in place. Now I'm mixing some resin and pouring it inside the mold, and then I'm picking up the mold and kind of moving it around to build up a thin layer of resin on the outside. This technique is kind of called like a roto casting because I'm rotating the mold to build up the layer of resin. I'm then mixing up and jumping in a rigid foam. Yeah, and as we see here, kind of overflowed. It's a 2-part mix that cures and expands. Once the foam is fully cured, I remove the outer shell, grab my X-Acto knife, and start the surgery of cutting the seams. Oh, I gotta be so careful. Yes! I removed the casting and it is ready. And because I did a foam interior, it's nice and lightweight. Resetting the mold. And then I turned him into a decomposing body. And you can find me on TikTok. I'm at DeathScience. And then here just doing some finishing touches, like painting the rim of the nose, painting the teeth, giving the teeth a little additional details. And then around the eye sockets and around the mouth. And then just kind of finishing it off by adding some sort of marbling effects that occurred during the putrefaction process of a decomposing body. Now, based on the time lapse, it may have seemed like it might have only taken me a couple days to make all this. But in reality, it took me a couple months of spare time. If you thought this video was cool and beneficial, feel free to explore our Patreon at www.deathscience.vip. There you can help support more projects like this and much more. If you like the video, feel free to dig up that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. And let me know in the comments, what do you think we should do with these life-casted mannequins?